Welcome back to part 13 of our Galactic history. This is Lance White with Andrew Bartzis. Welcome again.
Thank you. An outstanding interview.
Thank you. I'm just astonished at the information that we're able to...
We were just talking about while we were on break is how fast that the information comes out.
Yes.
I mean, as an interview, have you ever experienced anything like that?
No, it feels like light speed. You know, I mean, it's just, it seems like we just start the segment and then poof, it's over. And the interesting thing is that there's absolutely no gap in the information stream. And, I'm sitting here talking to you live, and I know for myself that you're speaking the truth. So for myself, I know that I'm hearing the real, honest to God facts about what's going on. And that's something I've been looking for all my life, is just to find somebody who can say, yes, this is what happened here, this is what happens here. And only a galactic historian could do that.
Exactly. That's why I'm here now.
Yeah. So even if you weren't here, we would have to have created you. We would have had to materialize you.
Materialize it.
Yeah. So that in itself is a fortuitous timing. So all that we're talking about is very hopeful, even though we cover a multitude of events that are, dark and negative and perhaps a little frightening. The very fact that we're speaking about them is
bright and shining beacon of hope.
Yeah, broadcasting, out and in and so on and so forth. So we were talking a little bit about the Federal Reserve and its control, and the monetary system, which is an esoteric, it's a magical system, isn't it?
Your dollar bill and every other printed bill out there is in effect a spell that locks you into spiritual contracts, that puts you into the system of monetary exchange for value and applies you to all the laws, because the way the laws are written. When the Federal Reserve was created, it was a multi-dimensional effect that put the foundation piece that took over all the other foundation pieces of the monetary system worldwide. Mm-hmm. As we began to take gold away from the system, gold originally held our money. Gold and silver held our energy. The actual reserves held the energy. And those systems, the old way they would deal them, would drain the money out of the gold and give it to the system of domination and control. The gold was like giant crystal batteries. So they would literally take it out of that. Once they got the internet age and the telecommunication age, they didn't need gold. They knew it was coming, phased it out, and had 20 years where it was all done on paperwork. Mm-hmm. And that paperwork was mined for energy. And then it went to a digital system that was interconnected to the internet, and there was instant repayment to any parts of the domination control system.
So they basically have carte blanche.
Yes.
To do anything they want.
Correct.
And so does the gold have any intrinsic value?
It has many metaphysical and intrinsic values on a healing nature,
okay.
But its reason it's set up here is gold is a vital part of consciousness exploration.
Okay.
And that's what makes parts of our land very special, the amount of gold that's in there, because the gold can interact with your consciousness, which is part of the resonant field of the land that you're in. Mm-hmm. And gold is part of a mineral community and does have a spirit within it. Mm-hmm. But right. When gold is put into brick form in mass amounts of energy, the spirit of the gold is basically suppressed back into the earth, and those bars are emptied of the spiritual energy, only filled with the amalgamation of our exchange for value system.
Oh. So it doesn't really matter who's holding gold bars. That's part of the illusion.
It's part of the illusion.
So following the money trail and the trillions that are lost and the gold reserve...
It serves a purpose.
Okay.
Before, I believe in the last episode, we talked about $6 trillion of gold bearer bonds suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and this was reported on CNBC, the actual newses. And what it was is there were bearer bonds from the 1940s or 1943. David Wilcox reported on this, actually.
That's right.
Quite a few times.
Yes.
And this was for $6 trillion worth of exchange for gold for the American Federal Reserve. And 3 or 4 Italian bankers tried to go to Switzerland and cash all $6 trillion. Okay, that was a faction within the Vatican that was trying to save its banking industry, and went into its basement and pulled out all these bearer bonds, which was gold that was stolen from the Asian countries during the Asian part of World War II. And you can read all this in David Wilcox's blog, and this is all true to the Akashic record.
Oh, good, good.
Okay, the gold itself that they tried to cash was to save the Vatican banking industry. If you look in the modern day now, J.P. Morgan Chase broke all ties with the Vatican Bank, and then a week later had the whale scandal. That's in the news record. The London whale scandal, where they lost what, $11 billion in a day.
That's one I missed. That
You can look it up.
Okay.
I challenge the people out there to look it up.
Okay. Okay. So the movement of the actual gold is probably something that.
Gold was needed to encase human beings so they
Right.
can be smuggled off the world.
Right.
That's why they needed to get off you with the gold currency.
Now, are there people that are holding the gold? Where is it now?
The vast majority of the gold reserves have been taken. And whatever is left now is what they're pulling out of the ground and smelting into bars. The whole reason they want your jewelry is they need gold to replace what's disappeared.
And so has been just offloaded, it's been taken off world?
Correct. And which will be returned to us in an energy for value system in conjunction with the Earth hive mind and the hive mind sentience of all the other planets that are coming here to resolve karma. So there'll be a massive reserve of energy that people have been stolen from for the last 400,000 years.
Wow.
So there'll be a massive reserve of energy, not money.
Right. It's an energy.
Everything is energy.
Right, right. And so that could be the transformation.
Correct.
Yeah. And so we don't need to worry about abolishing the Fed or anything like that.
It'll happen on TV, but at the same time,
right.
there will be no time for a lot of that.
Right.
So really what it is I don't think there's going to be a transition system.
Right.
I think we will transition and the system will be waiting there for us.
Right, right. That makes much more sense. And then those who need to have a gradual
will have their time.
Will have time to watch television and say, look.
Time.
Right.
In separated time while we're
Right.
in unity time.
Right, because we're in unity consciousness now.
Right. Well,
And
we're still in
what-
disunity consciousness.
But we're in unity time.
Unity time.
And disunity consciousness. And largely run by our unconscious aspects,
There
not
you
our
go.
conscious aspects. So it's all about becoming more conscious.
Yes. And sovereign.
And sovereign.
In the realm that you're going to create.
Okay. What is there any truth to the what is the truth about the Leo Wanta Nasara fiasco? But the funds are coming any day, folks.
There are no funds. For any faction to make any move at that scale to say they're changing the system is a psych operation, fear operation. Even if it's a positive light entity doing it.
Right.
It may be trying to do that to bring hope to people, but anytime you make a hope campaign like that, you should know down in your gut that somebody's going to turn it into a fear campaign way
Right.
easier than a hope campaign.
Right.
But hope can be used on the dark side too. They keep pulling the rug from under them, making you think it happens. You're hurting them with hope. You're hurting them with hope. Stop it. Stop believing in it. It's never going to come. They're not going to give you any money. Money that's stolen and cannibalized from everyone else. You want that blood money?
Right, and all the trillions of deaths.
Because they're going to flood you with that negative energy money. And you think Nasara would be free? No. It's
It would be
another
more.
play.
It'd be
Even more control.
Even more, yes. In fact, that would be a very clever trick of a galactic group to,
flood you with negative
And
energy
then-
money.
and then this is the new system, and here we're rolling it out. Free money, everybody.
Free money, nothing.
Yeah, and just more slavery.
More slavery.
So really, we're shifting from a material view to a multidimensional.
And those beings like Leo, like you were mentioning, they either do or they don't know they're being used at some level.
Okay. Okay.
There may be parts of them that truly believe they're doing the right thing, but from my neutral perspective of the Akashic records of the big picture that's behind it, you're being used.
Yeah. And anytime we buy into the carrot,
You get to stick with it.
Yes, right. And you were talking about there was something that you talked about earlier, the slap on the horses.
Oh.
I just remembered that.
Just remember that. The Syria war, the Iran war, all of that was the official we'll just say unbridled horse that somebody walked up to and slapped on the ass and it took off uncontrolled.
So these are events that are actually happening that are game-changing events instead
They
of the
break the predictive model, and therefore they must make brand new predictive models that are nowhere near as accurate as the other ones.
which means there's an exponential breakdown in the predictive modeling.
Correct.
Because the technology cannot keep up with
Correct.
something with.
And they don't have enough spiritual people running the technology because too many of them are in domination and control without full
Right.
sentience to understand all the data.
And they're in competition with each other, and they're
Internally and externally.
externally. So that is really a
Recipe for disaster.
yeah.
Three Stooges event.
Right, right. So it seems like if one were to predict what was coming, and of course we can't, but if one were to try, it seems like there could be a lot of comical events that will be exposed through the media, and then also there will
The
be
media will be a big joke.
yeah. How do you see that unraveling?
Let me find the words for it.
Okay.
There will come a time where there'll be enough people marching that members of Congress will not be in the country. At that point, the corporate offices will have people camped out in front of them, and those people will leave the country. And the news media on the local level will report it, and the national level won't. And that will be the main media issue, the local units that are saying, no, I'm going to give you the middle finger, I'm going to report the truth. And then the national units using their corporate powers to start firing people. Okay, so there will be independent news agencies that start their own internet news agency for free to get the truth out. Bob Smith of Channel 7 News, who's now on Channel, Z News on YouTube, continuing his show with the same production staff that said, no, we're not going to be a part of this lie. On a military level, there'll be factions within factions that begin to try to seize control of the military for both good and bad, because the fear within inside the military is the weapons. In a law enforcement scenario, you'll have officers who refuse to start arresting people because they're learning about the true sovereign citizen and what is real about their court system, because that'll come out too. Judges will be abdicating because there'll be major crimes against them. And then the stock market people, they will have the toughest time, the big figures that are commonly on the news. And then the talking heads of the news industry, both positive and negative, the big three, they will have to face a major moment of self-reflection. Many of them will explode on air, suddenly be taken off air. Others will simply say, I'm not coming back, and they'll have to instantly replace them with somebody that doesn't have the same projective power with propaganda.
Wow. Therefore,
Therefore, the system just degrades and degrades and degrades.
and then that implies that the corporate lockdown and the figure eight of all these interlocking corporations will start to dissolve.
Correct. Many of them will simply steal from themselves,
Yeah.
and as they steal from themselves, they create the Bernie Madoff effect inside their own. And inevitably, the market that's controlled becomes uncontrolled because all these systems unfunded themselves by theft.
Right. Well, since everybody's stealing, they'll all start putting their hand in the end. There'll
the
be
cave.
a run for the hills.
A secret run for the hills.
A secret run for the hills,
Right.
but it will have its
Its effects in media and in physicality.
that will be unmistakable.
Correct. Like when Congressman Joe and Bob and Dean suddenly decide to leave, and when the news agency goes to look for them, their staff says, oh, we don't know where they're at.
Right, right.
And then there's 30, 40, 50 members of Congress who got the early warning to leave because people are starting to say, hey,
right, finally
finally.
they're standing up and putting their feet to the fire.
And that will be duplicated in Europe too, and in Asia and Japan and all the major countries that have sacred geometry cities.
Where is it likely to begin?
In many places at once.
Right,
It's a standing wave that's going to spread around the world multiple
Right.
times.
Right. And seems like that would be a fairly quick wave. Well, as you
A
said, it
series
has
of
peaks.
small waves with peaks and valleys.
Okay. There's no way to predict
You
it.
can't give it to them all at once.
Right.
They'll
right.
just the humanity can't take it. It's got to take it in doses.
Okay. All right. A lot of alcoholics will be hitting the bottle. Well, they already are.
They already are.
I think people will be sobering up.
Mhm.
Like, oh my God, throw away the bottle. So, what else will be some of the impacts that we can look for as part of the signs that we're truly in the wave of awakening and
The dreams, like I've described before.
All right.
It's going to come on subtly, and then people are going to go, "Where did this all come?" And they're going to look with hindsight. It's been here a while. There'll be a lot of people that'll deny their dreams, but how often can you deny your dreams if you're having them 4, 5, or 6 days a week and shit coming true?
Right, right. So that's like in a sense, it's like a bleed through of the truth.
Yes.
And a dispelling of the illusion, so people will start seeing what's really there.
So they can see no time.
Yeah. And that's led
No
by
social agreement time.
No
I want to
so-
clarify that. No social agreement.
time.
Time we're living on is a social agreement.
Right, and that will, because there is no time.
There's no time defined as social agreement. There's galactic time, which is based off of your solar system in revolution from the galactic central sun, and your solar system is a sine wave that represents the total population of consciousness on a graph of
Okay.
energy.
And then you said that source was basically, it was a neural network of the suns and the galactic central
Correct.
suns. So we're literally in the mind of the creator, of source, in a sense.
Everyone is, in a sense. That's just the way the universe is set up.
And in a way, we're like a holographic fractal of.
That's human linguistics
Okay.
limiting. We're spiritual entities that we create the hologram,
Ah,
and then we create a
ah.
unity hologram, then we all add pieces, parts to it.
Okay.
So it's all co-creation.
Well, I'm looking forward to the time when we have those two desks, the one and the other, and we can practice our skills. That sounds like a
That'll
lot
be
of fun
fun.
to me.
And there'll be other people that use musical instruments as their freedom.
Oh right,
Yeah.
and light.
Clothing differences, massive difference in clothing.
What are some of the other shifts that you see? Well, there would have to be a change in the internet.
Well, the psychic parasites have to be removed from it. That's easy technology. Wherever there's a server, it just has a piece of technology that clears out the parasites.
Okay.
It's a neutralizer.
Okay, because I see instant communications. Well, going beyond the internet, we
It'll be
are.
consciousness transference. You're sitting here and you pick up your home telephone and another part of you appears over there and you hang up the telephone and go about your day while it does what you need it to do.
Nice, nice. I like the sound of that.
I mean, this is at the more advanced level.
Right.
You know, we as human beings don't have the operator's manual. We never got it.
Right.
You'll have an operator's manual, but you'll still have to learn it to get your final graduation party. And that's you putting the time to healing yourself with what's going on inside the machine.
And then that's the way to step on the accelerator of your own evolution.
Correct.
Is
Healing
healing
that,
yourself
healing
and
yourself.
doing the inner work and nurturing, loving yourself, and not just talking about it.
Correct.
And being the words, not just speaking them.
Exactly.
And truth.
And truth.
Truth. And transparency.
Absolutely.
So all these things that have been given lip service and have been reversed over and over and are continually reversing on us will be at what they
So they will be seen for what they are.
Okay. Okay. One of the things that I had heard about recently that, of course, we can't find anything about because it's all secret technology, is some kind of device in Antarctica that's 75 miles long that has been studied by Russia and China.
I think Lake Vladivostok is its name.
Yeah.
And there's a device below it that's a 70-mile long solid piece of metal. And that 70-mile long solid piece of metal is an energy battery left over from Lemuria that kept the South Pole in alignment with technology that was in, let's just say, that version of those air cities. And that device linked in the dream times of the astral world to the dream times of the underground cities in Hollow Earth, So the Hollow Earth people didn't have to use intermediaries to function in the astral world for contractual purposes. That Earth's incarnation grid was much more free then when that device was created.
And is it still functioning?
Not for its original purpose, because the layer, it would be in the fourth fortification of Earth, of the 9 fortifications of the astral realm through pyramid grids, that was created. And that particular device, as I said, is to be a battery of energy that's linked into all the snow that they knew was going to be there, and the ice that created pressure on a crystalline structure that makes a massive piezoelectric effect on the entire bottom part of the pole there.
Okay.
So that gives the ability for that device, when properly activated through the control rooms, the ability to raise the consciousness of the Earth from the South Pole up, which can trigger unity global dream time.
Okay. What about there was another piece that I read about the boxes that were washed up on the sand that were, and some of them
all over the world.
All over the world.
These boxes were devices similar to the ones that were put on Planet X, Nibiru, whatever you want to call it, to prevent us from remanifesting it in our reality. They basically, if propaganda were to be successful, the ground would be altered by some type of disaster. And these boxes at the edge there would absorb the wave of consciousness change of what it is, and would lessen the actual damage that it did. And Fukushima is the classic example of that. The tidal wave should have hit America, should have gone all over, and it didn't.
Mm-hmm. And so they had removed the boxes
around Japan.
So
they could have that.
But what stopped it from becoming a
global tidal wave?
Yeah.
The other boxes on the other side of the ocean.
Okay, so they didn't do it the best of
They only removed the ones around Japan so the disaster could happen.
Oh, okay. All right. Was that a rush event? It wasn't planned out properly?
No, that was the Israel that did.
Oh, right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We did talk about that. Are there other devices that we are unaware of that are left over from Lemuria? They probably all
There's dozens and dozens and dozens of devices, and many of the sacred geometry cities are built on top of these devices.
And
like the device in Moscow.
Okay. What about
There's a device in the underground of Moscow that essentially allows the city of Moscow in its Dreamtime consciousness to have a micro version of a control room.
Oh.
And that city can actually turn into I'll just describe it as a vessel of consciousness.
Huh.
There's stolen Arcturian technology that's underneath there, and it could take the consciousness of anyone that's in the sacred geometry and dump it into a unity drive, and that city could just ascend from our world and go to any other planet and then be co-located on another planet.
Wow.
And there are other cities that have similar technology like that, but they don't have the micro control rooms to do it. It was a particular generation of technology that was so refined by a group of consciousness explorers millions of years ago.
Wow.
That ultimately left Earth, but left that in that area. And as the reality reshaped, the technology was still there, and then people began inheriting and finding out more until finally the Russian factions figured out what it was.
So they know how to use it.
And have used it.
It. So
during World War II, during the invasions. To get a mass amount of people off the planet for DNA trade. Because that's all that Lenin was doing. All the killings that he was doing was to get DNA off.
And so basically all wars are about...
Again, remember there's thousands of species out there that are near dead.
Yeah.
And will do anything for the DNA to survive their species. And you have a mafia charging an arm and a leg with interest.
Right. So they're in on all the technological advances. So they're part of the 15 families, I'm guessing?
The 15 beings don't need families. They just need a breeding group. And there are other factions other than them. They're just the ones that are the best puppet players in this game.
Now, you mentioned once in the Galactic history that goes back in the 50 million years period that there was a 2 million year period when
Earth wasn't in this universe.
Yes. Now, what about that entity? Was that a creator?
That was
god?
another universal entity that said, time out in your universe. I'm taking that. Took it there, did what it needed to do, and to Earth said, no, you're not doing that with me anymore. And it took out the rolled up newspaper and smacked that universal being on the nose and came back here and started up doing what it was doing.
Wow. So there are beings with that kind of ability.
Yes.
Okay. Now, essentially, we are those beings in a sense.
In a smaller micro form,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
I mean, it all goes up and goes down. But for right now, for this description at this point in time, we just need to know the bigger picture of our world.
Right. Right. So that we can take back our
Sovereignty.
right, and start acting like the
Sovereign beings with power.
Right. Okay. Well, we're just about at the end of segment 13. Is there anything you want to add
Pretty good
before
now.
then? Well, then we'll
We'll be back.